This is the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast, and I'm your host, Trudy Simmons from the Daisy Chain Group, providing platforms for women entrepreneurs to be seen and heard. This platform is for women entrepreneurs that want to hear the real stories of what it takes to be yourself and run a business with all the different hats that you might have to wear. These are the stories of the tenacious, the rebellious, and the resilient women that are working towards the future that they want to build for themselves and their families. Hello and welcome to the quite wonderful Kari Roberts from Kari and Roberts Coaching. Kari, thank you so much for being involved in Shine On You Crazy Daisy, and please tell us about your business.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kari, and as you said, and I'm a specialist parenting coach. So I coach parents, but predominantly mums, to build their confidence so that they can hold their children's hands to be secure with who they are. So, it's all about understanding emotional strength and mental health and well-being.
It's so wonderful. And thank goodness for people like you that are helping this generation to help the next generation. It is amazing. What really struck me about your story is when you start talking about your lack of self-belief and that you had self-doubt when you were younger. And I wondered how you were able to see that was happening to you and do something about it.
So I think because I had this sort of, I came from a culture where you were expected to perform academically, and therefore if you didn't do well academically, you weren't successful, you weren't succeeding. And I didn't do too badly, but I always felt that I wasn't doing enough. So there was a self-doubt around my ability academically. So, I didn't go to university until much later in life. So I always felt that because I hadn't gone to university, that certain fields wouldn't be open to me. And I just had this sort of inner voice that kept saying, who do you think you are? You can't do that. Just be happy with what you're doing. Sorry, my background, I think, is going a bit blurry. Just be happy with what you're doing, and, don't aspire too much. Play small, because if you put your head above the parapet, someone's going to say, no, you can't do that. You haven't got the knowledge, you don't know enough. So there was always that self-doubt. And it was there. And occasionally I would go, no, I can do this. So I would apply for a job that I thought, maybe I haven't got the right piece of paper, but I'm going to apply for it anyway. And there was always a bit of an inner rebel, a bit of an inner sort of resilience. And, most of the time when I did that, I was successful in getting the role. But still there was this, someone hasn't realized that, I haven't got that piece of paper, or, I don't really know as much as I think I know. So there was always that there. And even after reaching what I thought was the top of my career path, I still had that little bit of created belief still there, bubbling away, saying, okay, you've come this far, but don't go any further. You've got away with it so far. Don't go any further. Your luck's going to run out.
I love that. But I also think that listening to you talking about it, there's got to be that other voice inside that says, go for it. You can do it.
Yeah.
And that strength, that resilience that you've created for yourself from very early on in your life, I think is a real strength to carry through your life and with having your own business. So how do you go from that? What made you decide to set up your own business?
Well, I had been sort of told, my son is an entrepreneur, and he'd said for many years, Mum, you could really set up your own business and go for it. And I kept thinking, no, people like me don't set up their own business. And in the end, I was pushed because we had a major transformation at work, and the role that I had changed dramatically. And I found that I was firefighting rather than really getting in and supporting and, working with the ethics that I believed. I don't believe that firefighting is a long-term solution. It helps in that crisis, but long-term, we are not making any changes. So we're just letting families down. I felt like I was letting families down. I felt like I was letting my team down. And after, I think I'd been in the role for 3 months and it had been changing, and I could really feel my emotional and mental health declining, really sort of to the point where I was starting to not hear any of those positive voices, and just robotically putting one foot in front of the other. I mean, I'd get home from work and nobody would talk to me. Even my husband would just offer me, just put a cup of tea on the table and walk away. My best friend was saying to me, what's going on? And one day I just drove up the M27, seeing a dear friend of mine who was a previous head teacher that I'd worked with. And she asked me how the job was going, because I hadn't seen her since the sort of changes and promotion. And I just burst into tears and I told her everything I was feeling. And for the first time, she just looked directly at me and said, you have to leave. And that was when I decided I was going to take the plunge. That I looked around at other roles and thought, I think I'm going to find myself in the same position. And I can't say that was fantastic and it was breezy, because obviously, I just fell back into a bit of a comfort zone. I kept a very small circle of contacts. So I was doing work for organizations that I had worked with in the local authority. I was doing work for the local authority. And so I wasn't branching out. But there was a sense of freedom there. There was a sense of exhaling and just going, actually, I felt in a way at some point that I had given up, that I had quit, that I had just left because it had got too hard. But I now know that there was so much that was needed to quit for me, for my own mental health, for my own well-being, and also for the support that's offered to parents and families.
Yeah. And I think that's where your heart is and was in that, was that when you can see that things aren't being done ethically for what you see, that how you can help, then to start your own business and do it in a way that you can see the outcome for the mums, for the families, for the parents that can influence their children. It's an incredible gift that you are giving to them, and for yourself to be able to feel like that inkling of self-doubt and self-belief that you had when you were younger, it's not there.
Yeah. And that's not saying what's being provided isn't right for the providers, but for me it was very much that personal. I just knew deep down inside, I felt like I was dishonoring it's an odd word, we don't use it, but I didn't feel like I was honoring what I knew worked, what I had seen time and time again working. And that for long term we were just piling on so much pain, so much, there's so much judgment, so much pain with being a parent. And I felt like I was contributing to that.
Wow. On the flip side of that, one of the things that you talk about in the chapter is that you're now growing a movement, and that feels a lot more positive. What does that look like to you?
Well, it looks like I've got a group, and it's about growing that group so it becomes the norm. So, parents, mums, that we know, that the myth of a mum having to sacrifice everything and give up everything and be selfless is what a good mum looks like. That the narrative is actually the best thing I can teach my child is to be secure with who they are. And that means I have to be secure with who I am. And, you know, and have podcasts. And when parenting's being discussed, that there isn't this judgmental, well, it's all down to parents, because actually research shows we do not have full control over our child's future. We don't. But there's been this narrative and this push that it comes down to parents. It's all down to parents, and your child's behavior is your fault. It's got something to do with you. Actually, so many other reasons why your child might be overwhelmed. And so it's just about that confidence in, I know my role as parent, I know my child, and I know and have the confidence to be able to be the parent that my child needs.
That's so perfectly said. And if that's the movement that you are growing and mums start joining that movement, I think your group's called Building Mums Confidence. Building Confident Mums.
Yeah.
Building Confident Mums. If you get mums into that movement of feeling like they can ask all the questions, they can bust the myths out of the water and feel like they're doing the right thing for the next generation, it gives people so much more choice in being able to be who they are for themselves and to further benefit their kids, their children.
Definitely, because I think we tend to think it's only happening in our household. It's a bit like fires. If your house is on fire and you go to the roof and you think it's only your house is on fire, and then you look around and you see actually everyone else's houses as well. And that is what happens with talking about things and having a platform to be able to ask, or even just listen to what other mums are saying. You realize that it's happening in all families, and there is nothing. People tend to think, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my parenting? And we'll try all different. That then just adds to, okay, so why is it not working for me? And that adds to that, so I'm not good enough.
People are going to get so much out of reading this chapter. What's one lesson that you would like another entrepreneur to know if they were starting out, of what you've learned?
I would like them to know that it's not easy. That having a plan is always a good idea, because I tended to fly by the seat of my pants, which took me a lot longer to get where I am today. To reach out to find other business women, to join a really good supportive network, to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And also to realize that although it can be overwhelming, and it may take you a little bit longer than you hoped, but at the end of the day, you might question, like, why did I do this? But it is so worth it. And take baby steps. Because actually baby steps are so much more manageable than trying to take a huge leap. And that's the one thing I've learned.
I think that was 6 lessons that you've learned. But
just thought I'd get it into the one.
You're worried about it. What's your favorite piece of software for your business?
I love using Webinar Jam and EverWebinar. It's an online digital webinar software, and I love the fact that I can go and do live webinars, and it's easy to set up. There's the configuration of the webinars really easy, so many useful tools, and then you can take that and you can convert it straight away to an EverWebinar. So you can just download it onto the EverWebinar and it's there, and it just makes it so much easier for someone like me hands up, I'm not great at technology, but it is just so useful and easy to use. So I absolutely, hands up, that's been the best piece of software.
Webinar Jam. Fantastic, Kari. I really appreciate your time. I love the fact that you're part of Shine On You Crazy Daisy, the book and the podcast. Thank you so much for coming along today.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And, I'm sort of so excited for the book to come out.
Thanks, Kari. Thank you so much for watching the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast. If you've liked what you've seen today, then please make sure that you click the subscribe button to this channel to see more inspiration and motivation as more of these stories keep coming out. And if you want even more, click on the link below this video and go and have a look at the series of books Shine On You Crazy Daisy and get even more inspiration and motivation for you and your business.